Quorum being present, this town meeting is called to order. Please rise if you're willing and able to Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We left off the other night in the middle of Article 2, and Ms. Binder's motion had just come up. So, Ms. Binder, if you'd like to come forward, or come to the microphone.
Thank you, Angela Binder, Precinct 5. My motion is there. To the Finance Committee, appropriate town officials to be instructed to investigate a mechanism to authorize expenditures of funds above bid costs for capital projects, including going to FinCom for approval or returning to town meeting. Normally, unused funds from previously approved appropriations are rescinded, reallocated, transferred with approval of town meeting. Town meeting expects this to occur with money appropriated that is not spent on the project is put to bid. Any use of funds for new purposes and/or which are out of scope should be approved by town meeting or at a minimum a finance committee and should be reported to town meeting. Could the slide that I sent to Ms. Jem be put up?
Do we have it over here? Do we have, okay, yes.
The other one, another one, there were 3 I sent, yep. Okay, thank you. So the town of Reading, through town meeting warrant articles, often requests town meeting members to authorize spending for projects at a set cost. If approved, projects go out to bid. Bids come in below authorized spending, above spending, or at authorized spending. It's my understanding that if it's at authorized spending, all is good. If bids come above, the town can choose not to pursue the project or return to town meeting for additional funding. My instructional motion has to do with projects that come in under bid and what happens to authorize borrowing above bid cost but below the amount authorized by town meeting. My understanding as a town meeting member has always been that those previously appropriated funds wouldn't be spent or would be reallocated or transferred to other projects. My concern arose from $3 million that was appropriated for the fieldhouse floor and bleachers over 2 different town meeting sessions in April and November of 2024. The accepted bid came in at $2.683 million, over $300,000 under bid. Yet the entire amount, $3 million, was requested and borrowed, and all but approximately $15,000 has been spent. Approximately $75,000, not sure exact numbers, worth of sports equipment, scoreboards, batting cages were purchased, which I believe was out of the scope of what was presented to town meeting. While an argument may be made for doing some of the work together, and some of the add-ons, I don't believe that an argument can be made for above bid sports equipment, which was not on the capital plan. This summer I met with Dr. Milczewski and Facilities Director, Mr. Joe Huggins, who acted as project manager, and they were very gracious and spoke to me and met with me, and we went over to the field house. They stated that the presentation to town meeting could have been better and should have been more clear about what they may have intended. Dr. Milczewski did not use the word project included as an excuse. He didn't see that as a genuine justification. He's here. I hope I'm not misrepresenting what you said. And he acknowledged why I and others who had reached out felt that the spending might have lacked transparency. The presentation made to town meeting last year over 2 nights mentioned only the field house floor and secondarily the bleachers. No other improvements or aspects of the project were presented by Mr. Huggins or Dr. Milczewski or then school committee chair Tom Wise in the 90 minutes of presentation and discussion over the 2 nights. Town meeting members did ask relevant questions, relevant and related questions, yet no one mentioned the other work and equipment. At the April 2024, at the April meeting, safety of the floor was the paramount issue. At that meeting, town meeting member Karen Janowski stated that she was confused because one slide said the field house improvements were for floor and bleachers, and another slide said just floor. It was stated that the improvements were for both field house floors and bleachers. No other improvements were mentioned. FinCom member Ed Ross put forth an amendment then to include bleachers in the motion to be clear exactly as to what the work was to be done. The motion passed. It was then understood by me and I think other people that the improvements were for the floor and bleachers. Town meeting, I went back and watched the meeting, so. Town meeting member Tom Grant asked about the lifespan of the field house, if it was worth putting a high-cost floor in if the building may be torn down in 25 years. The reply was that most of the equipment had been replaced in 10 to 12 years. Town meeting member Megan Fiddler-Carey asked about how rental money is spent, and it was stated that it goes into a revolving fund and it's used primarily for maintenance, and that, quote, there's no larger need for capital at this time. There was no mention of $75,000 worth of sports equipment that could have been requested through the CIP. Over the summer, the Finance Committee found out about the request to borrow the full $3 million, even though the bid came in at 2.638, which is how I heard about this issue from watching the FinCom meeting. At the August meeting, it was stated, when putting together the design package for the fieldhouse floor, which includes bleachers, we knew as a group on the school side that we would like to see some of the athletic equipment get replaced. The bid came in favorably, which allowed us to do the wish list of items. None of those items were ever conveyed to town meeting, even with ample time and questions asked by town meeting members. I do appreciate the expertise and skill of our town staff, and I truly don't want to hinder their ability to do their job. But town meeting is often asked to approve capital items at much lower costs, and I'm concerned about $75,000 plus purchase of sports equipment that is out of scope of what I believe was presented to town meeting. I and many other town meeting members did not see this as an unrestricted renovation, but as what was presented as floor and bleacher replacement. We're looking to an override, possibly. We have 2 large building projects underway, and we've been told by the select board members that we need to tighten our belts because not everyone's going to get everything they want. I'm concerned about money being appropriated for one use being put to another use, or at least that it's not explained well to town meeting. So I'm asking for increased transparency going forward so that I, as a town meeting member, know exactly what I'm being asked to approve. I'm asking for town staff to be more explicit in requests to town meeting. I've spoken to Ms. Angstrom, who has said that she would be very happy to do that. And I would like FinCom to be apprised possibly of requests for spending above bid costs, or possibly to request to go back to town meeting. I know FinCom has discussed this several times, but I thought that it was important enough to bring to town meeting for a discussion. Thank you.
Further discussion? Yes, Mr. Herrick.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Steve Herrick, Precinct 8. Thank you, Ms. Binda, for bringing this article to the floor, or this instructional motion to the floor, because I think it's something that we really need to talk about in this town. When I first learned about this, I'm going to try to be careful with my words here, these funds being used in a way that I think clearly was not in the minds of this body. I was a little bit stunned, actually. One of the foundations of this body here, and I don't care where you're sitting in this room right now, if you're on this side or that side or in the middle, is that we approve things here in town meeting, and we have an expectation that town staff is going to do what we ask them to do. We vote these things and we spend town money, and there's an element of trust there. And not this coming to light, I have to say, quite frankly, that I found it shook me a little bit that I think there's a breach of trust in place here, and that really bothers me a lot. I love this town. I think we do a great job of running this town, but now it makes me wonder, as we're looking down the barrel of an override, whereas we literally voted, I don't know, several town meetings back here. I think there was a line for $882 that we voted to move some capital funds or some sort of borrowing funds. So here we are quibbling about $882, and here we have almost $300,000 being used for something that we clearly, nobody on this floor had in mind that they were voting for. And if it had come to the floor, maybe we would have voted for it, or maybe we would have gone on for 45 minutes arguing about it, but we would have had that conversation. And I think it's a very important conversation to have. So I just think I need to, I hope, I don't want to put words in anyone else's mouth, but I think I'm speaking for everybody on this floor that I think we need to rebuild some trust here between this organization, the town meeting members, and the town staff, and understand and feel that, yes, when we vote for something, that those funds are going to be used appropriately, and that we all here, everybody in this room, are good custodians of the citizens' taxes here. And I wholeheartedly support Ms. Binda's instructional motion. Actually, if it was me, I would have worded it much more strongly, but I hope everybody here, I hope we unanimously vote for this, and I hope that the staff takes this to heart, because I think this is a very important issue. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Further discussion? Ms. Binda?
I'm sorry, could you just show the 3 slides that came from the presentation in April? And so this is the first one. It says, in funding designs for the floor and bleachers. And then the next one says Article 10, Fieldhouse floor bleachers. And then the third one is the background, and it's about Fieldhouse floor and bleachers. So even though the motion itself said project including, everything that was presented during that time specifically only said Fieldhouse floor and bleachers.
I would ask that you come to the microphone. Mr. Berman?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Barry Berman, Precinct 6. I remember sitting in that very chair when I heard the presentation about that the sports equipment was bought as a done deal, and I was kind of scratching my head about it, because my recollection about how this works is that we go out to bid. If it comes in under, terrific. If it comes in over, we come back and figure out either we're going to cut back on the scope to fit the dollars that we appropriated, or we're going to come back for more dollars. I will stop short and say that this is a breach of trust. I won't go that far. But it was definitely different from my understanding about the way things go. Forget about the fact we have an override coming, and forget about the fact that we've just appropriated tens of millions of dollars for buildings. The sports equipment, maybe it's a good idea. My guess is we probably would have voted for it. But I remember things come back, right? And they say, listen, and I have a great appreciation for the staff has to come in and sort of ask for the right amount of money, sometimes 2 years before you put a shovel in the ground. That's impossible. It's never going to come in right. So I know it's not an exact science, but there is a level of, we have limited capital dollars that and tons of projects that need fund. We're constantly pulling things in and pushing things out so that we can allocate and use to most efficiently the dollars that we have. The fact that this was a done deal and kind of just sort of presented as done, it bothered me a little bit. And so I support Angela's motion, but also with a sense of appreciation for the work that goes into these bids. $75,000 is a lot of money, and maybe the sports equipment is probably needed, but that should have come back, right? Or we should have cut back on the amount of the appropriation, or put it to a like cause. That's the other thing too. Sometimes this has always come up. It's like, well, if you have extra money, it could go to a like cause. But that's in the capital plan. This was not in the capital plan. So, you know, it rubbed me the wrong way. And I think that we can do better. Thank you.
Ms. Doctor.
Nancy, Dr. Pearl Street. If it was just this issue, I'm not sure I would be as upset, but I'd like to remind this body, a few years ago, we approved funding to upgrade and renovate the police department. $200,000 of that was specifically requested by our former town manager because the health department was in such dire need for more space. That $200,000 was spent. The health department has never moved into the police department. I've not gotten any explanation from FinCom, from the select board, from our former town meeting member. So with these two big projects coming up, yes, we have to do a lot better to assure our residents how we are using their money. Because $200,000 pales with, or there's $75,000 for sports equipment pales for the $200,000 that we've already spent for something that was never utilized. That should concern us. Thank you.
Mr. Carnahan.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Joe Carnahan, Precinct 7 Finance Committee Chair. So I support the spirit of this motion. For any town project, there will be opportunities for the project manager to scope things in or out of the project. We, town meeting, simply can't vote on every line of a detailed plan or schematic, not least because we must first allocate money for such plans to be drawn up. Also, unforeseen issues do arise, and often requiring a time-sensitive response. We employ the best project managers we can in order to make the right trade-offs in all these cases when there isn't time to come back to town meeting. Still, given the future of the town's operating budget, we do want to nudge project managers towards spending less and not more when faced with these trade-offs. The question is how to do that. The Finance Committee wrestled with this question back in September in response to residents' concerns about the Fieldhouse project. Unfortunately, it's very hard to write a general policy that accomplishes this. I know because we tried. The thing is, state law already absolutely restricts project managers to staying within the scope of the spending approved at town meeting. And however, we intentionally word our approvals vaguely so that the project manager is able to respond to those unforeseen issues. It's very hard to restrict project managers any more than state law already does. Perhaps any new policy here should be directed to those who write articles for the town meeting warrant. We can't spill out every detail of every project, but we could be more specific than saying any improvement in this building. I do see an issue with the specific mechanism proposed in this instructional motion. Of course, it's an instructional motion, so the details are not binding, nor is the whole thing. But like I said, I support the spirit, so that's why I'm here. Projects are not always acquired under or procured under one giant bid. Sometimes it might be smartest to do most of the work under one bid and then give some specialized parts of the work to someone else. To use the Fieldhouse floor as an example, I could imagine a world in which we worked with one company for the floor and another for the bleachers. Would the project be under budget when the floor part alone is less than $3 million? Still, I do like the idea of asking project managers to come back to someone for review when there is a choice about if and how to spend the balance of a project's budget. Most of all, I'm glad to hear everyone else's ideas here, either tonight or later. Please feel free to reach out about anything that we, town meeting, can do to communicate our expectations around fiscal responsibility to project managers. Thank you.
Ms. Zimlak.
Nancy Zimlak, Precinct 5. I would just like to say that I concur with all of the people that have gotten up to speak to this issue. I think it needs to be very clear what we are voting on and how the money is being spent. In very simple terms, I understand that some of that money was spent for a covering for the new floor. Some of the money was spent on a new scorecard for the field house. Now, I can understand, to me, it's a reasonableness issue. I can understand why you might want to spend the money on a covering for this new floor that you've put in. But how a new score board, thank you, falls into the category of an okay expense as a town meeting member is beyond me. So I would like to see a more transparent process for the spending of this money, and not that it just be, yeah, we've got this money and it's okay and we can buy this extra stuff. So I do support this motion, especially in light of we've got 2 huge building projects coming up. And I think that this topic is critical to those projects, and that the town and the townspeople are very clear about how this money is going to be spent and what this money is going to be spent on. I understand the difficulties for project managers and what exactly is in a bid, but it really needs to be transparent to town meeting how the money is spent. Thank you.
Mr. Ross, I believe you're next. Oh, Mr. Cool?
Point of order, sir.
Pardon me?
Stephen Cool, Precinct 6,
okay.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, Mr. Cool.
Why don't we have council here tonight? This is a matter that would seem to merit council's input.
Would you like to?
We don't have the town attorney here or one of her
Mr.
colleagues.
Cornell?
Yes, I thank you, and thank you for the question. In terms of the instructional motion, I don't want to go backwards and talk about what happened a town meeting ago, 2 town meetings ago. We've got, obviously, I understand where town meeting's coming from. We could do a better job at the beginning of these funding presentations to explain a little better what goes into a project, and that's what we're going to do going forward. So we get the sentiment. I don't want to go back and rehash ancient history on these things and talk about projects where the spending is already done. I think we could talk about going forward, and if you look at the wording of Ms. Benda's motion, it talks about going forward and what we can do in the future. So that's the way I look at it. As far as tonight, I was unsure if we'd even have a quorum tonight. I talked to town council. She didn't feel, and I didn't feel that she would be needed here for an instructional motion where there's no real legal weight to it, and so she's not here. She's available by phone if needed. But I think, like I said, the message is heard. I think we could work on it going forward and take it from there. But I don't think spending the whole night talking about prior spending and what happened in the past is going to be
Excuse me, ma'am. I didn't talk about.
Excuse me.
I'm not
Let him
talking
finish.
about going past.
Okay. And and I answered the question about town council. So thank you.
Thank you, Matt. I wasn't talking about the past, just talking about why we don't have council here tonight. I hear what you're saying, but I think council should be here for every town meeting in case things come up.
Okay, I'm going to back to Mr. Ross because I thought he was next. Mr. Ross?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ed Ross, Precinct 5, FinCom member. I just wanted to kind of highlight a few things from some of the earlier speakers. Now, and I understand, a lot of the commentary and the feelings around that, but I kind of took issue, and I just think we should be careful about trust and lack thereof. And just to be able to kind of point out one thing specifically, our facilities director acted as OPM for this project, and that in and of itself saved the town as part of this. So, and that's, and it was, we didn't know it at the time, but we kind of found out it in FinCom. I just think that's important for everyone to know. There's always kind of levels of context to this. So that instills trust in me. I've had, kind of several, interactions with both school and town staff And I believe that this was and is an anomaly. And to Joe's point, we did speak about this in our FinCom meeting, and as the town manager just mentioned, I think this is something where we can look at going forward and have more transparency, have more commentary. And this will be difficult for this body to be able to consume, because there's going to be ifs and whats and ands, if this happens or if this happens, that we're going to have to decide on. So I just think but I think that's what we want, that's what we need. But I'm super careful about, that there was a breach of trust. I just think that we just need more transparency, from town staff and admin, and I believe up until now, and Matt just mentioned it, I think they've heard this. Thank you.
Mr. Barnes.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jonathan Barnes, Precinct 5. I support this instructional motion, and I agree with much of what has been said. To me, it isn't at all a question of what has happened in the past. It isn't a question of trust. For purposes of this exercise, I don't question any of that. But I do feel fundamentally that this goes to a fundamental precept of the way our government is structured. And I believe it was Ms. Binda who said that, who made the point, actually several people have made the point, that it's the function of this group, this body, town meeting, to exercise the prerogative of how our funds are spent. And we go through that exercise every spring, sometimes in the fall, with respect to the appropriation of funds. And I think that the problem here, however, not a question of any ill will or trust or anything like that, but the fact is that funds were spent in a way in which town meeting was not involved in authorizing them in that fashion. And I think that's what needs to be fixed. When this came to my attention, and I looked at the motions, again, I didn't see this necessarily as a question of trust. I saw it as a question of reasonable judgment. And the way the motions are worded, and this is the way they seem to be always worded, I'm just quoting from it: to raise and appropriate, borrow, transfer from available funds, or otherwise provide a sum or sums of money for the purposes of making improvements, including, in this case, full replacement of the floor and the bleachers. And my presumption was that this expenditure could conceivably be considered for purposes of making improvements. Now, we didn't hear about this. We heard about the floor and the bleachers, but in a sense, it fit within the four corners of the motion. And several people have mentioned that perhaps we can fix this in the way in which it comes forward. And I sent an email to our town officials, and I see that Sharon isn't here either, and I would have been interested in hearing from Sharon and from town council as well. And I'd be curious in hearing if there's any comment from the town manager or from the select board, because my suggestion was, and I'm not saying it's the best suggestion, there may be many suggestions, and I look forward to the finance committee and select board and other representatives of the board trying to come up with the best solution. But what I was thinking of, and what I might be thinking of to address this in the future, which is why I would like to hear some feedback with respect to it, is to alter the way that motion is structured and to have it say, rather than to say, raise and appropriate, borrow, et cetera, for the purpose of making improvements, including, and then specify it, and leave it open-ended like that, my suggestion would be to have it be, raise and appropriate, borrow, transfer from available funds, or otherwise provide a sum or sums of money for the sole and exclusive purpose of making the following specific improvements. In this case, the floor and the bleachers. In that case, it was clear that the improvements that we were appropriating for could not be misinterpreted in the application of the expenditure, but would be specific. And in fact, if those funds were utilized after that motion was worded that way, then perhaps we would have another problem. So that was the thought that came to my mind, and I'm thinking in the future, if there isn't another way of fixing this, of providing an amendment if we ever see an expenditure motion in the future. But I'd be curious to know if town council or the treasurer or anybody to whom I wrote the email had a thought about that, whether it was good or bad. And I'm not suggesting it is, it doesn't have faults, it very well may, but I'd be curious to hear about that. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, thanks, Jonathan, for your question. Just briefly on that. So in terms of motions, when it comes to borrowing, so, you know, I start the motions, I start writing them, they're reviewed by town council, and then they're adjusted by town council. And if it's a borrowing, it also goes to bond council, who you've never met. They don't come to these meetings, but we have bond counsel on retainer to make sure that it's appropriate for the borrowing in the article and the motion are correct. So that's a suggestion that we could make, but there's 3 levels of legal review here to get to the final motions that you see. So it's not like we just put this together and say, okay. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and I know you as an attorney would know that as well. But it's something that I'm taking all sorts of feedback tonight for sure, and I'm going to bring it back to staff. That's why I'm here. And that would be certainly something I could talk to bond counsel about and town council about, you know, expanding that if it's allowed. And if they come back and say, no, this is prescribed by law for borrowing, it has to be this language, you know, we'll explain that to town meeting as well at the next borrowing. But it's certainly not a bad idea. So thank you.
Mr. Do you have a comment? Mr. Haley?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and thank you, Jonathan. In what you were explaining, my mind always goes to loopholes because I love using them. I would say that what you did by specifying that it had to be the floor and the bleachers, the problem ends up becoming in that scenario is that when you're taking the bleachers out, something gets destroyed on the wall where they have to fix the wall, and then there's electric and all this, and now you're having to come back to town meeting to fix all these other incidentals. So that's why I think it's written this vaguely where everything else would be taken into an account. I do agree that a scoreboard is significantly different than what I just described, but I believe that with Matt and Dr. Milichevsky and Joe Huggins and Sharon, everybody is on board from this moment going forward. Actually, they were on board like a month ago when this, you know, all started happening previously. So I do appreciate the spirit because nobody wants to save more money than I do. Obviously, I'm sitting here hacking away at all different various numbers. I just think that in the grand scheme of things, when Joe Huggins saved us $150,000, and that is omitted from any kind of presentation, that's a problem. Because if I was Joe Huggins, I would not be saving the town of Reading, Massachusetts $150,000 ever again. And sorry, not sorry. And that's what you're doing to the guy. Not you specifically, but you gotta see how it is, and I would not be too happy having my character attacked like this here. Thanks.
Mr. Talbot? Okay. Yeah, I'll go ahead. Okay. I'll let you respond, then we'll get back to Mr. Talbot.
Cheryl Lestrade, Precinct 5. I beg to differ, both that legal wasn't warranted because this is an instructional motion, and I also beg to differ that this was not out of the scope. Because to me, when you say when you take your car in to get an oil change, if they go in and they figure out, oh, you need new tires, before they can change your tires, they have to reach out to you and say, hey, we see that you need new tires. Are you okay with us changing them? This body of people who sit here at town meeting, we've sat here for countless nights, going back and forth for so many things that I believe that could have been easily a yes or a no, but we do that because we care about the town and we care about how we spend the town members' money. And so, yes, Joe saved us $150,000, but then he spent money that wasn't in the scope of what it was asked for. So that money that was allocated specifically for the floor and the bleachers then went to purchase equipment and a scoreboard and whatever else. So yes, things happen when you're painting or when you're changing things, but at that point, when that extra money became available, it was this body of people's right to speak for the community that they have been voted in to serve, to decide what to do with that additional money. We have other projects going on, and we sit here night after night trying to figure out, how to play move around chess pieces. And I think that this was taken out of our hands and out of the community's hands and made by somebody else without coming back to this body. We've come back to this body of people for other things. This is something that should have come back to us, because we could have decided that, no, we don't want to do the scoreboard right now because we have other big projects that are going on. So to me personally, that was a misallocation of the additional funds based on what we voted on. And I understand it all had to do with the field house, but we voted on, as a body, the floor and the bleachers, not the scoreboard, not equipment, and nothing else. And I believe that when we make a judgment, we make it based on an estimate of what something might cost. If the funds had come over, we would have been back here meeting to say, what are we going to do? We need more money. I feel that when we came in under, it was still our right to be able to speak for that. And that was taken away from us. So I do believe council should have been here to say, yes, this was wrong, this was right. And I do believe that we definitely need to do better in the future. The question is, there's nothing that we can do about what has already happened because it's done. But I think we owe this body and the community a lot more than, oh, well, he saved us 150, but he spent it anyway somewhere else. I think that's really a nonchalant attitude, and that's a slap in the face to the taxpayers.
Mr. Talbot, and I'll come back to you after that. Mr. Talbot?
He wanted to follow up, right?
No, that's fine, that's fine.
Yeah, you've been waiting a while.
Okay,
so.
thanks. Dave Talbot, Precinct 5. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, everybody. Just two questions. When the matter that came up of the matter that was just explained about the savings of the 150, is that because we have a staff member that's handling procurements rather than outsourcing the management of that? But that's part of the job, right? That's why that's a staff member and not, okay.
Could you use the microphone?
I just got I heard your answer. She says,
okay,
no,
okay,
you need
fine.
a separate license.
Hold on. You need to go to the microphone and say it so it can be on the tape.
Okay.
Thank you.
Carla Nazaro, Precinct 1. You need a construction manager's license, a CSL license, which is something that the individual pays for themselves, and they have a different level of qualifications. So we would have had to have hired a project manager, which could, if you want to do the math, the project managers that we have working on the Killam project is getting about $400 an hour. So you can do that math to calculate how much savings we had.
Mr. Talbot again?
Oh, okay, thanks for the answer. So it's $400 an hour times however many hours is the point. Okay. Everybody's made great points. We had a great presentation at the beginning, kind of the details of what was presented, the details of, meaning at the previous town meetings, the details of what were asked on the floor, and what the answers were that were very specific. And what we haven't heard, and we have the town manager and the superintendent in the room, would be appreciating just hearing, okay, so the bid came in, and then there would have been meetings and decisions made of, well, what do we do now? And can one or both of you walk us through those details so we understand how it got to where you know, how it got to where it got.
Dr. Milichewski?
I might have a quick follow-up. Thank you.
Good evening, town meeting members. I was going to hold my comments or thoughts just until we gave everyone the chance to speak, but I'll jump in, answer your question. I think a little bit of context first, too. First, I'd like to thank Angela and FinCom. I think Angela over the summer came and met with Joe and I to have a conversation about this. We both always appreciate when people come in with questions, concerns, feedback, thoughts, and appreciate FinCom taking the time to talk to us and discuss that on the floor, too. Second, you know, myself, when I speak about we, just know that this is not Joe. I hear Joe's name. Like, I work side by side with Joe, town manager, other town staff. Like, we're in this together, and certainly in this one side by side with Joe. So in terms of the four corners of the project, we feel that the spending all was within the four corners of what is the language in the town meeting warrant, or the town warrant article, which shared improvements for the field house, sort of including field house floor. With that said, we hear the feedback from the community. If we had another chance at it, I'll tell you what I would have done differently. I focused my presentation almost entirely on the floor because we know that the shift was from the ask was 1.7 million originally, up to 3 million, going from what was the foam back vinyl, which we didn't think was the safest option for our student, to then the wood floor. So knowing that that was the big shift, that's where we focused the entirety of our presentation. In retrospect, what I would do differently, and we talk about this all the time with our students, I would have been more explicit and detailed about some of the other things that are within the four corners of the field house that we see are also needs for the improvements in the field house as well. So that's, if I had another chance at it, that was sort of what we would do. And I also think moving forward, recognize that that's the level of detail and clarity and how explicit I should be and our team needs to be consistently moving forward too. Now, just being clear about the sort of directly to your question too, so when the bid comes in a little bit over 2.6, I've heard no questions on any of the spending of things like the matting for the floor surface, the machine that's purchased to be able to clean the wood surface. I want to focus the entirety of sort of this on the sports equipment line and just make sure everyone sort of understands what was in there and why. Sports equipment was four pieces for us. One being scoreboards, that was about $30,000. The scoreboards are original to the design of or kind of the newer build, so 2006. Anyone who was in the high school consistently knows those have not worked consistently lately. I'd say decent maintenance costs, joking into the details, the last couple of years have had a difficulty meeting what is required to sort of withstand the bandwidth of what happens for activities both during the day and after school. Two, the dividers, so the courts divide up into multiple sections to be able to divide up sports. That's important for both rentals and day-to-day programming. The dividers were back to 2006 as well. Ripped, tarnished. If you've been in there, just not in great condition, sort of lived out their useful life. Third, what we categorize as the batting netting. Those were handmade back in 2006 during the renovation of the building. Appreciate whoever did that. I don't know if someone out here, 2006, put those together. They do not work very well mechanically, several holes, rips in them. We also know that with a new floor, any ball that rips through a baseball, lacrosse ball is going to be damaged on the surface as well. And then last piece, the backboards. For the two main backboards, it's the actual glass plus the metal above it. Those were installed 55 years ago. If you come watch a basketball game, there's students dunking, hanging on the rim. We knew that those were sort of far exceeded their useful life. Now, I understand sort of the gray area of saying, should that fit in this project scope or not? We felt, Joe, myself, other members of the team, that those were within the four corners of the Fieldhouse improvement project. And with that, we hear the feedback for sort of how we would do that next time around as well. So happy to answer any more questions or ask for any more clarity on that.
Mr. Talbot, are you all set, or you have a follow-up?
I think that those are all reasonable statements. I mean, I still go back to what was said on the floor. It's hard to imagine why some of those very large expenditures wouldn't even have been mentioned once as a possibility under the article as presented. So I'll support this motion, and I look for better clarity in the future. I wonder, is there any other report or after action that's been generated about this other than the motion and the presentation? Like, Has there been some kind of summary of here's what happened and here's why we did this, other than what you stated here tonight?
I think I'll make my after action, public, and I think that's fair, as if I had another chance at it, I would have also been able to outline, and our team outline, here's some of the other things on the radar for the high school. And if there's funding, we would love for these to be able to fit into the scope of the project. And I think that, first of all, we didn't anticipate that necessarily we'd come in as low as we didn't expect that opportunity. So my after action is just making sure that in any project moving forward that I am involved in with facilities, that we are very explicit up front of anything that can be tangentially related to the project, make sure that that's transparent to everyone, and whether or not that would fit into the kind of any additional sort of funding that may remain after the original allocation.
Thank you. I would love it if you and Mr. Huggins were in charge of sidewalks in town, because that would keep a lot of those done. Thank you very much.
Mr. Barnes?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Jonathan Barnes, Precinct 5. I don't want to overstep my prerogative. I just really wanted to respond to what Chris had commented, although hearing from the superintendent, I may want to get back in line because I could have some other comments. But with respect to Chris, your comments, there's no need to address the question of the OPM, whoever that may be. I think the issue for the decision that was made in the past was because there was some ambiguity exactly in the motion. And all my point is if there was no ambiguity, I think it would have been very, very clear for whoever is the OPM what could be appropriated and what shouldn't be appropriated. With respect to your latter point about ancillary situations, whether there's a hole in the wall as a result of putting in the floor or something like that, associated with the specific purposes for the appropriation, I do think that otherwise is still covered in what would be the general motion. I didn't state it because I didn't want to go on about the rest of what would be in the motion, but what I was addressing should be included, which was make the following specific improvements and being limited to this sole and exclusive purpose, and then I referenced that. What I didn't reference is what is already in the motion, and I wasn't suggesting taking it out, which goes to the second part of what's in every motion, and this would still be there, Chris, including the costs of installation, construction, consulting services, audits, plans, documents, cost estimates, bidding services, and all related expenses. So in my opinion, that covers contingencies such as a situation where something were to arise with respect to repairs to electrical needs or a hole in the wall. That still is covered in the motion, so I don't think that's a concern. Thank you.
Yes, over here.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ron Powell, Precinct 3. I just want to begin by saying that I do strongly support the spirit of this instructional motion. I do think that town meeting has an obligation to advocate for taxpayers, to make sure that money is appropriately spent, and also if there's concerns that money is being spent in a way that town meeting didn't understand that's how it would be spent, that there's a communication back channel from the town to town meeting. So I think, I commend town manager and others who have spoken that they've established a process, and I look forward to that in the future. It's unfortunate that town council, and I don't see the town accountant here either, neither could attend, because I think that my understanding has already been explained that there's already a Massachusetts law that makes it illegal to spend money on anything other than the money's appropriated for by town meeting. And that would already cover that part. And moreover, I think that the Massachusetts law gives statutory authority to the town accountant to determine what falls in reasonable scope in accordance with the Division of Labor Services guidelines. I had spoken with someone earlier tonight, had mentioned that one of the things that the Division of Labor Services offers is to come and engage with town staff to advise them on how to communicate issues like these back to the town. There will be other projects in the future where there will be an excess of funds due to bids coming under what was money that was allocated for it. As a project manager myself, I know that that happens all the time. So I look forward to the mechanism. I do support the part of this motion that wishes to explore a mechanism for having the town communicate back to town meeting. As far as having the finance committee or town meeting authorize expenditures, I don't know if that would conflict with existing Massachusetts law, because that seems like the town accountant already has that authority. Thank you.
With this son?
Joe Harrington, Precinct 8. I'm new to this, first-year town meeting member, so I apologize if I don't know all the facts and details about how these things happen. But it seems, we have a process happened, and I don't think anybody in this room is happy with how it worked out. But I think we can start, perhaps, to get at least one step in the direction or two steps in the direction of making it better. Dr. Michaelis said that he's going to have more detail in upcoming proposal he makes. If others were to make that same kind of commitment or have that same understanding, I think that would help us move forward from this point. And also, I don't know who it is, but the folks responsible for determining what's in scope and out of scope and what will be paid and what will not be paid, if those folks would commit to saying, okay, the capital was for floorboards, you're not going to get a scoreboard. Just simple common sense. I don't want to put anybody in the spot. As I say, I literally do not know who does that. But I think if we had that kind of understanding here tonight in the meeting, it would be the first good step towards fixing that process that we all are pretty unhappy with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Alicia Williams, Precinct 8. Well, I'm one of the most fiscally conservative people in the room. I'm always up for saving money. This is a gigantic waste of town meeting's time. I love saving money, but this was within scope. We didn't buy a jacuzzi. We didn't buy any farm animals. We didn't take a trip. We bought sports equipment for a field house that we didn't put on a list that people could micromanage. I feel like if we get in the minutia of projects and start saying we're going to also buy a screw for something, or we're going to buy that, we are going to sit here for hours, and we already sit here long enough. And I'm pretty frustrated that we are here. Vote for this, don't vote for this, it doesn't matter, it's not binding. We have very capable, smart, and thoughtful people in the town at the helm, and for the first time in a long time, I'd like to not drive them out. I do have one question for the town manager. Did I hear you say that you've already spoken to Ms. Binda about this summer? And it's been addressed?
Yes, I did speak to Ms. Bender about it. I believe she came in, I met with her in my office, right?
So she came and talked to you.
Yes.
You had a conversation about the parameters you're going to put in place?
Mm-hmm.
And we're here talking about the parameters.
No, it's a fair question. She did meet, as Dr. Milichevsky said, she came and met with him, Joe Huggins and me, so she's met with all the parties, and we've taken in the input, we take it in tonight as well, and we take that to heart. And as far as the last comment, I think I started off by saying we're taking this seriously and we're going to make some changes in our presentations, for sure, not just on the school side, but on the town side as well. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Alvarado?
Vanessa Alvarado, Precinct 5. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So I do agree with the previous speaker in that I don't think that anyone here believes that the town staff used the funds inappropriately in the sense of buying anything extravagant. So I want to make it clear that there is no intention of maligning or insulting or saying that the staff acted inappropriately with those funds. I can't speak for the rest of town meeting, only for myself in that regard. However, I do support this. I do appreciate the town manager saying that you've taken in what we've said. Thank you for that. With all due respect to the previous speaker, this isn't micromanaging. It's $300,000. It is a lot of money. And while I think the likelihood that town meeting, had you brought this to us, would have approved that, we are in a delicate situation right now financially. I'm going to say the word override. It's on the horizon, and so I think there might be more sensitivity around how funds are allocated and what maybe could have been done with that $300,000 outside of the field house. So I thank the staff deeply. Thank you so much for everything you do. The field house is amazing. That's all. I hope we finish up and can go home. Thank you.
Ms. Nazaro?
Good evening, Carla Nazaro, Precinct 1. If you haven't gone to see the field house, it's absolutely gorgeous. It looks collegiate. Any team or any parent that walks into that field house is going to really feel a sense of pride in terms of what our, we're a town of sports, and it's just a beautiful, it's a beautiful job that was done. I want to set the stage for last summer when this job was being done, this project. We basically have 3 people in our facilities department. There were, besides their normal, typical 9-to-5 jobs, they were doing 3 projects, all at the high school. They were doing the field house floors. They were moving the modular classrooms from Killam across town to the site, and they were correcting the Rise preschool playground. Those were going on at the same time. As I had mentioned before, our director of facilities has his construction supervisor's license. That is a level above in terms of qualifications for someone in facilities. So when we say that he saved the field house project because of a permitting issue, he saved the schedule on it because he was able to step into the position. I just want people to really understand what a benefit that was to us. When I look at this and people are saying out of scope, this is not out of scope in my mind. I didn't feel slighted. I felt proud of the job that was done. Everything was in scope. Think of it this way. If you are doing a home project at home and you are doing hardwood floors in your family room, and you have an expectation and you've saved enough money to do that floor, if that floor comes in under bid, you are going to be able to do more. You're going to paint the walls, hopefully, in your family room, put crown molding and things like that, maybe new curtains and put in some new furniture. That's not out of scope in terms of what you're doing in that room. This is project management, construction project management. When you have subcontractors on site and you want to do different types of work because you see a path forward, that's a construction manager. And to have those subcontractors on site is cheaper in the long run for the town. So actually, if you have a qualified project manager, your cost savings to your client, which is the taxpayers, has greatly increased. I will tell you that 2 weeks ago on the Killam project, we brought in, the committee approved and brought in a site worker, a site contractor to do soil testing. During our meeting, we came up with, geez, and this wasn't in the Killam Building Committee meeting, we said it would be better if we drilled a few additional sites. Now, was that out of scope? No, somebody had the forethought to say that will help us in the long run. So things like that happen in construction sites. I will tell you that during COVID, the schools were able to open before other towns were able to open because our facilities are so well taken care of. We had MERV, I think 12 filters, and the new...
Moderator, we've gone far afield here.
I am talking about project management, and I do feel like it is pertinent because people have brought that up. So that is a benefit that we had as well. And so I just want to to say that when you have contractors on site, when you have the bleachers off the walls, it's probably a good time to paint the walls. I thank the town manager, I thank the superintendent, I thank Joe for meeting with Ms. Binda, I thank you for bringing it up. I think we've got this issue solved. Thank you.
Over here.
Chris Futo, Precinct 4. I move the question.
That,
You beat me to it.
that requires, do we have a second? Second. That requires a 2/3 vote. Who do I have for counters? Who did we have on the, let's see. We got these two. Do we have somebody over on this side? Mr. Cool, could you do the honors? Thank you. All right, all those in favor of ending debate, please rise.
Fourteen.
14?
25.
25?
25.
25 again?
30.
30. And those opposed to ending debate?
Two.
2.
4.
4.
0.
3 and 3. The vote being 94 in the affirmative, 9 in the negative. The question has been moved. We will go straight to a vote. All those in favor of the instructional motion, please raise your hand. And those opposed? And the motion carries. And further business under this town meeting, do we have a motion? Move to adjourn, sine die. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor of adjourning sine die, please raise your hand. Those opposed? And the motion carries. This town meeting stands adjourned, sine die.